Every single second, somewhere in the world, someone is walking beneath those iconic golden arches. Crazy, right? Well, welcome to this explainer, where we're going to unpack the incredible and frankly wild origins of McDonald's. Today, we're zooming in on the operational framework, the hidden gears of how one tiny California drive-in literally became a global phenomenon.
So if I were to ask you who actually built this massive operation, what would you say? Since the brand is just so universally recognized, we naturally kind of assume the original founders were the ones who scaled it up. But, you might be surprised to learn who is really pulling the levers behind all this explosive growth.
Yeah.
His name wasn't McDonald. Actually, the guy most associated with building this empire wasn't a McDonald at all. It was an ambitious milkshake machine salesman named Ray Kroc. But hey, before we dive into his absolute masterclass in scaling, we've got to understand the genius invention that caught his eye in the first place.
Let's jump into part 1, the drive-in problem and the Speedee solution.
Let's rewind a bit back to the 1930s. Brothers Dick and Mac McDonald ran a pretty successful drive-in, but they were dealing with a chaotic reality. I mean, think about it. A highly complicated menu, completely dragging service, and sky-high operating costs. Not great. So they asked this revolutionary question. What if a restaurant operated, well, more like a factory? Boom. In 1948, they scrapped the old car hop model entirely and built what they called the Speedee Service System.
They took a total Henry Ford-style approach to food prep. They broke everything down into a literal assembly line. Every single employee had one highly specific job. One person grills the burgers, another preps the buns, someone else is on fry duty. And because the food was flying out the door so fast, they could keep prices incredibly low. It was a real game changer.
So here is the absolutely crucial point to remember. The brothers hadn't just created a better hamburger. I mean, let's be honest, anyone can cook a good burger, right? No, they had engineered a fully scalable operating system. And systems, robust, repeatable systems, are exactly what make businesses massively scalable.
Which brings us right to part 2. Enter Ray Kroc and the franchising revolution.
Fast forward to the 1950s, and Ray Kroc is traveling all over the country selling milkshake machines. Well, he stumbles upon the brothers' explosive operation out in San Bernardino, and he just knows he has to convince them to let him franchise the concept. But here's the thing. He didn't just want to sell licenses. He became completely obsessed with strict consistency. He demanded that whether you walked into a McDonald's in California or Connecticut, you got the exact same burger, the exact same fries, and the exact same level of cleanliness. And that level of predictability, that's what created such unwavering brand trust.
But as you can probably guess, whenever you pair a cautious founder with a super aggressive visionary, you are definitely going to see some friction. See, the McDonald brothers had already achieved their definition of financial success. They really valued tight, localized control over everything. Kroc, on the other hand, he demanded rapid, nationwide expansion right now. Their visions were literally on a direct collision course.
All of this immense tension finally culminated in a massive turning point in 1961. Kroc actually bought out the brothers' interests entirely for around $2.7 million, which back then was a staggering amount of money. So yes, the brothers absolutely created that original brilliant system, but Ray Kroc was now firmly in the driver's seat, controlling the brand that would eventually take their name all around the globe.
And that leads us perfectly into part 3, the real estate masterstroke, which is the true economic engine here. Now, most people think McDonald's became this powerful powerhouse purely by selling billions of hamburgers, but there's a genius dynamic going on under the hood. The franchisee, they handled the extremely tough daily grind, right? Hiring employees, selling the food, running operations. Meanwhile, corporate McDonald's built an absolute economic fortress by controlling the actual property leases. They collect the rent, right alongside the franchise fees. So they weren't just building fast food restaurants, they were building an ironclad real estate empire.
All right, let's look at part 4, global adaptation and digital evolution.
Having totally conquered America, the next massive hurdle for them was international expansion. And let's be real, taking a highly standardized American system to totally different cultures across the globe, no easy feat. But their strategy was brilliant. They decided to rigorously standardize the underlying system and the core brand identity, keeping all that operational efficiency intact while remaining totally flexible when it came to localizing the actual food. They cleverly adapted the menu to fit distinct regional tastes and cultural preferences.
But hey, as we all know,
Massive scale brings massive scrutiny. It definitely hasn't all been smooth sailing for them. Over the years, the brand has had to continually adapt to some really intense global debates, stuff like nutrition concerns, labor practices, environmental impacts, and animal welfare. In business, standing still is basically a death sentence, so McDonald's has had to constantly evolve right alongside these shifting consumer demands.
Which brings us right to today. The modern McDonald's experience is increasingly about way more than just walking up to a restaurant counter. They are heavily leveraging mobile apps, self-service kiosks, and data-driven delivery networks. The technological tools have completely transformed for sure, but if you think about it, the fundamental mission, to serve customers faster, better, and more consistently, that remains exactly the same as it was all the way back in 1948.
Let's wrap things up with Part 5, the blueprint for scale, and the major lessons we can take from the arches.
So, what does this all mean for us? Here are 5 core takeaways you should absolutely walk away with from this explainer. Number 1, simplification creates efficiency. The brothers succeeded simply by removing the clutter and complexity. Number 2, build systems, not just products. Honestly, a great burger can be copied by anyone, but a flawless operating system, that's way harder to replicate. 3, consistency creates trust. Customers always come back when they know exactly what they're going to get. 4, distribution can actually be more powerful than invention. The brothers invented the system, but Ray Kroc figured out how to aggressively distribute it. And finally, number 5, the business behind the business really matters. Never forget that massive real estate engine we just talked about.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. Now that you've seen all the pieces of the puzzle, what do you think was the true secret behind this unbelievable success? Was it the McDonald brothers and their highly efficient original system? Was it Ray Kroc's relentless, maybe even ruthless ambition? Or was it the hidden economic power of that massive real estate model? It just goes to show, sometimes the businesses that completely change the world don't actually invent a brand new product, they just build a wildly bitter system. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning how the systems around you are really built.